aka Tronik Youth. Welcome to my studio. The track we're going to be working on today is a remix I did for an artist on my label 9 Records. It's by William Earl and the track's called Chemical Love. The track is quite a dark, deep record. A lot of percussion, a lot of timpani, sort of deep bass drum sounds. For the remix I decided to go a different route, which was kind of make it a lot more basic, a lot more cleaner, a little bit, take some of the dark elements in it and make them in a slightly different light. And strip it back a little bit using a lot of the TRA and percussion wise, there's quite a few layers, but just keep it a lot more simple. So this is the original track. There's a lot of drums, a lot of percussion, some dark, deep, weird voices, a lot of reverb, a lot of tails on stuff. Sounds amazing on a great sound system, but obviously in a smaller club or home listening, it's a bit intense. So I wanted to kind of strip it back a little bit and kind of give it a feeling of a little bit warmer and a little bit more analog, replacing most of the drums, which I do on most remixes. I tend not to use much from the original. I tend to keep the atmosphere, use as vocal samples, but sort of create a new version really. Okay, so the first thing I tend to do when I start a remix will be go through all the original parts, listen to everything, see if there's anything there I can kind of take or manipulate for my version. Sometimes it's very useful to find like bits that, and on this record is a good example, there's pieces in the background that come in very late in the track that are very atmospheric that I thought weren't really maybe as used as to the best of their potential in the original, so I will use those and make them a key feature in this. The vocals are obviously a key element from the original because that's kind of what you're going to signify to that track, even though I've changed it. And some of the, one of the percussion things, the drums, the kettle drums and the timpanis are so sort of distinct that I wanted to use bits of those so it still had that little feel. And a couple of the little pluck sort of patterns he's used in his original one, I've taken and manipulated and then, replayed those rhythms on different synthesizers and different plugins. So it still has a feel of the original, but it's pretty much a completely different instrumentation. So the first thing I did was I took the vocal sample from William's record, which is very distinct and has a very sort of dry feel to it. And I wanted to use that through the track, that would give it a recognition factor from the original rather than completely redoing the vocals, which I do on some tracks. So on this one, the plan was to give it a totally different feel, make it sound a lot more spacey. I'm a big fan of the UHE satin, so I've dropped the vocal into that. Phase pong will give it a wider spatial sound across the speakers, and then sometimes I'll go for two on the same one. On this one I've also used a bit of tape reverb. So from the original, which is quite a dry sound, now on this one it will give it a much more sort of spacey sound to it, and also a bounce.
I'm allergic to your chemical love.
So obviously over the course of the track that will give it a lot more texture. So the original drum section from the track has about 5 or 6 different layers of drums that give us full drum roll, like a kind of kettle drum orchestra type vibe. I went through all the pieces, pulled out this one which is more like a kind of gunshot sound. That's gone through the satin, which is like a sort of flange delay, a tube flange delay, to give it a bit more warmth and not be as harsh as it is on the original, but still have this kind of rolling drum orchestral sort of feel to it, which in the context of the track still is there. You recognise that it has a similar kind of essence and vibe, but I didn't want to take the whole drum section. So the only other main piece I took from the original was this kind of pluck pattern it says on the stems, which is kind of like a sort of high, stabby kind of like arpeggiated synth noise from the original, which I felt was key elements from the original. There aren't many main synth parts, there's not really many lead parts on it, but for me I'm a big fan of arpeggiation, I'm a big fan of kind of stuff that gives a kind of 80s Kraftwerky, Depeche Mode atmosphere to it, which this original piece has. So yeah, so one of the great things about Ableton, which has literally revolutionised my music making, is that I'm not an amazing keyboard player or an amazing producer, but in my respect that with Ableton you now have this ability with Ableton 9 that you can convert melody to MIDI, which gives you not only the notation but also gives you the feel, the kind of touch after touch that you have from the original. So on this key piece, which I find in the track as kind of a big element of the original, which is constantly played throughout, was then converted from to a MIDI track, which the main keyboard parts of the track, as you can see in this section, all in. They will be different in some respects. I'll change them around like that one because it's constant. That one you can see is more separated or changed on a lower key or lower register. So for example, on this one here, I've got the Arturio Selena, which is an amazing representation of the original, which is so good. I mean, very CPU heavy, you have to kind of freeze a lot of the time. But this is kind of playing the same simple riff from that thing that Will did on his original. But obviously because it's across an organ and a pad, you're not getting that punch that you would get from the original. But you're also getting a lot more texture, you're getting a lot more kind of spatial sound to it. But you know, it's not a thing. But obviously, if you replay it, you're going to lose that touch. You're going to lose that feel. Okay, so the Selena I've used on this, the Arturio Selena. Basically, you can open up the top and then go into the effects section. So what I tend to do is I'll start from the presets. This one's diamond strings. That has a lot of texture, a lot of layers to it. And then we'll go and play with the rate, play with the chorus amount of delay. So basically, then you each time you do it, I mean, if you can move the delay up to an insane amount, 100%, and the chorus as well, it will give you like a totally different feel from what you started off with. Sometimes I'll come back to a track and read it and sort of think, is that the same sound? So you move moving further away from the original preset. It gives you so much more resonance, so much more depth to it, especially with this instrument. Okay, this is another MIDI pattern from that same pattern I've used from Williams' original track. This is on another cello version of this, which is the rate quite high for the chorus, so you're getting like a level textures. But this has a real kind of like nasty, sharp kind of analog sound, which this replicates so well. Obviously I'd love an original Selena, but the prices are crazy and it's so much more easy to do. They've done a great job. And this gives the track a lot more kind of like analogy grit and stuff. And on the use of this as well, I've kind of gone for, I've EQ'd the bottom end off, so it makes it sound a bit more sort of thinner and muffled. And a little bit of chorus has been used from Ableton as well, just to give it even more chorus than is on there, but I can control it through Ableton a lot sharper. So we're a big fan of the ARIA range. You can see it's pretty much everything here, apart from the plug out, the Pro one. So we've got the plug-in version, which is pretty good. And so for the bass, I want a kind of warm, dark sound to it because the original track is pretty clean, and my version is pretty clean, just to give it some depth and texture. So I've gone for the Real SH2, which was one of the first things I ever kind of got to use in the studio in SH. And for me, it's a really close, really good sound. So this just gives the track some real darkness and some real texture against the clean percussion stuff, which is coming from mainly the TRA. So for a bit of high kind of noise, a little bit blippy on the track, I'm a big fan of that sort of sound arpeggiation. The plug-in Pro Mars, which Ronan released, I think it's at the start of this year, into last year, some fantastic kind of high sort of blippy sounds. I tend to find to give it a little bit more analogy feel. I'll pull it through the Abbey Road J37, usually kind of put more flutter on it and kind of make sure maybe some of the delay presets, it gives it that weird kind of warmth to it. And then obviously for this sound it's the same MIDI pattern. For this I've gone to arpeggiate as well, so getting a higher hit rate and then drag the bass end of it off, so I don't want the frequencies to clash with the basses in the track. So one of the other elements in the original track was a part right at the end of the track William had used, which is like a distorted vocal. It sounds like it's kind of been put through like a guitar pedal effect, I would imagine. And it created like a real atmospheric effect. It's literally like a minute at the end. So I wanted to drag it into the track and use it a lot more. So as you can see, probably a third of the track on mine, it's in the actual tune. And then for that I put it through the J37, which is giving it like a weird distortion and delay and flutter. I'm a big fan of the one knob louder setups as well. Sometimes like these you can see they're very small, sometimes they'll pitch out. But the J37 definitely gives it texture and quality, which it doesn't have on the, it's a lot cleaner there, so it just mutes and gives an effect which adds a warmth to the track. And when it's not a major key part element of the track, but when you listen to the actual song, it definitely, this chorusy bit and the vocal bit gives it some sort of texture and depth that I think probably would have missed massively without it. That's all we have time for at the moment. If you want to see the full-length version of this, get the latest issue of Computer Music, it's all there.
Download over 30 exclusive plugins. Get hundreds of pro-quality samples and power up your production skills with in-depth tutorials. We break it down for you step by step, and you'll see exactly how it's done in expert video guides and producer masterclass sessions with pro producers. Get all this and more with Computer Music Magazine every month on iPad and iPhone, PC and Mac, Android, and in print.